Let's move on to Jets at Falcons. Falcons open at -1 and -120. Right now at 5 dimes, it's a pick'em of sorts. I mean, there's no spread, but it's -130 for the Falcons. So Bet Online still at Falcons -1. All other books are at -1.5. Heritage at -2. Total open at 42. Now Bet Online is at 44. All the other books are at 44.5. Jets open the preseason 31-22 loss to the Giants. Darnold looked very good. That opening series was nice. 75 yards, 7 plays. It was nice. Hit passes of 32 and 28 yards. Found Jamison Crowder for a TD. Le'Veon Bell warmed up in uniform. What an honor to have him put on the jersey. You Jets fans. Wow.
Ugly jerseys.
Yeah. Simeon looked good, I thought. 13 for 16, 77 yards. Luke Falk, 9 for 11, 69 yards. These Falcons, I mean, we've talked so much about them not caring. Starting with Dan Quinn, who's so intense. Such an intense guy to not care in the preseason. But is this a spot that you might want to back them, Donnie RightSide?
I still don't want to back them, but you know what I was actually intrigued by last week when you watched that Atlanta game versus the Dolphins, where they actually played a pretty decent, 3 quarters in that game. And then the Matt Sims show starts to take over, and you get what you get at that point, where you see a guy that's been out of football and just comes into camp and he really can't execute. But the one interesting thing is Max Schaub, he must have gotten written the riot act saying, you perform like that again, we're just going to straight up get rid of you and we'll look on, because he actually played a pretty decent game in there, and a competent game, which you're going to have to lean on that same MO. I think the Jets are a little bit younger, have a little bit better of a starting lineup that's going to go. And if anything in the past that we want to take to the future is that the Atlanta Falcons don't care. They don't care about the final score. Again, not even to say from that first game, like, ooh, they were brutal, Matt Schaub was bad, and they get, the late interception, which caused them to lose that game. Last week was a microcosm with everything. It's a tie game. 99% of the people probably say, no, let's work on our punt and just see if we can get a stop and get out of here. They go for it on 4th down inside their own 20-yard line just so they can get out of town. I can't put my money on a team that literally says we do not care what the final score is here. I lean Jets in this one here.
It's looking already at this week 2. I know I messed up on Thursday. There was some, especially in the Bears-Panthers game. When I was watching, I was like, oh, what a mistake. Not believing in the Panthers backups, which I should have done. But looking at these games, I find it quite a bit more difficult. Even though I'm only sitting at 6-6, I find sides here quite a bit more difficult in week 2, especially when we're talking about games 48 hours away on Thursday, where we're still going to get a lot of information about playing time before then. But Whale Capper, I don't feel comfortable with this Jets-Falcons spot at all. I find the Falcons just a huge question mark with trying to figure out whether Dan Quinn is going to care a tiny bit more moving forward, because that was a nice point on Schaub. A very nice point Donnie made on Schaub. Well, Capper, you see anything here, Jets-Falcons?
Yeah, this is a line that this is an easy stay away from the sides because of the points you brought up. And I think, the fact that it honestly looked like Dan Quinn wanted to lose, which is weird. And, he may be using losing in the preseason as an opportunity to kind of specifically try to get the most out of some of his players, like he did with Schaub. So given that notion, I don't think you can take a full game side here and expect to have an edge. And you go to why not the Jets then? If the Falcons are intent on losing. Well, the Jets have been kind of quietly accruing a number of injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball, as we've kind of, crept through, this week 2 and week 3 of training camp here. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're a little bit cautious on who they throw out there on defense. Their secondary is really depleted right now. They could give up some passing yards in this one, and it could get ugly. I'm looking for an over in this one if I'm playing anything. And actually, I kind of do like the over in this one. This is kind of fits the narrative of, the offenses are getting a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more reps. I thought the Jets offense was pretty darn impressive last week. I like Adam Gase's scheme. I like the weapons he's got. He's got a couple of, second and third unit guys that can absolutely contribute in the through the passing game. And the Falcons have shown us nothing. Even, they're being very conscientious, having taken some serious licks Alex last year after they lost Deion Jones and Keanu Neal. They've got those guys, they've got their key pieces wrapped in bubble wrap, keeping them fresh for the regular season. So I don't think we see a lot of defense in this one. This has a total landing in the 40s the way I handicap it. So I'll take the over in this Jets Falcons. Stay away from the side though.
Staying away from the side, liking the over. Take makes a lot of sense, and the market has gone with it. And Walla Walla saying, yup, injuries aplenty for these Jets.